Today's topic is the Morong from the lesson 11. Now, what is a Morong? According to the book, it says the Morong is a traditional bachelor dormitory system which was once an essential part of Naga life. If you are wondering what is a Morong, so let's just take an example of our school, like the school where you go so that you can learn how to speak, how to write. Along with that, you are taught some basic skills. Also, you are taught how to talk to your elders, how to respect elders. Plus, you are taught about so many things which will help you. The Morong was a bit like that. It was mostly for the boys only. So, as you can see, it says the Morong is a traditional bachelor dormitory system. Now, what is bachelor? Bachelor means those who are not married. According to the book, it says the Morong is a traditional bachelor dormitory system. Now, traditional means it's a part of belief that is passed from one generation to generation. So, now what's the meaning of dormitory system? Dormitory system is like a big hall where all the youths they stay together, which was once an essential part of Naga life. It says like essential means something like very important part of your life. So a Morong was an essential means an important part of every village. And you know why, right? Because all the Naga youth, they learned so many things from the Morong. The Morong was the pride of the village. You know, pride means like they were proud of it. So what happened was that like even though their house are not that big also, but they make sure that the Morong was bigger, more beautiful, and they try to decorate it with different kind of wood carving, as you can see in the picture also. Okay, and they always decorate it with trophies of war. Trophies of war means what they have won in the war. Alright, so maybe the enemy dows or spears or shields. Shields means this one. So the Morong was a place of disciplining and educating the young people on the way of the tribe. So just like I've said before, the Morong was like a school, but instead of education, they were taught all the important things. The Morong fulfilled a variety of functions. Young boys will enter the Morong and leave only when they were ready to begin a family. The Morong is a place where the young boys are taught or trained by the elders, and they will continue to train and can only leave when they are ready to begin a family. Means when they reach a certain age where they can get married, then only they will leave the Morong forever. In the Morong, this was also where the village sacred hunting trophies, dows, spears and shields were kept for safekeeping. The ancestral folk songs, folk tales and other customary practice were learned in the Morong. Now, what is an ancestral folk song? So, ancestral folk song means the traditional song has been passed from generation to generation. So same goes to the folk tales and other customary practice. The Morong was also a place where decisions of war and peace were taken. A Morong was also kind of like a common room where all the youths and the elders, especially the male only, they sit together and discuss to make war or to make peace. Women were not allowed inside the male dormitories. Now, inside the Morong, no female were allowed. Only the male can enter and go out, but no females were allowed to come in. In some tribes, there were also Morongs meant for females. So elders passed on the Naga culture, customs and traditions from generation to generation through folk music and dance, folk tales and oral tradition, wood carving, weaving, etc. So here it says that like even there was some Morongs for females. And in the Morong, females were taught Naga culture. Culture in a simple way, let me just say, it's a kind of a how to behave in a society. Customs. A custom, you can think it as a kind of neum, some belief which you have to follow it. Example like during festival, what you should do, what you should wear, or like during or before going to the field, before going to work, what you have to do, or like after hunting, like the neum that you cannot eat all the whole part of a animal. You have to offer some to your friends, neighbors, or you have to offer to the elder. So something like that, you can take it like that. And tradition means like all that, the culture and custom that you have to learn it, and then you have to pass it on. So they were taught about Naga culture, custom and tradition, which was learned through folk music and dance, folk tales, and oral tradition, wood carving, weaving, etc. So if you're wondering what is that, it means like some folk song, what is the story behind singing that particular song, or like the meaning of the song is explained. Okay, and dance. So like why the certain kind of a dance we do, because I can understand that nobody does a dance just out of nowhere. So there's a certain steps, and then like why it is followed, why the movement is done. So everything is taught to the females. So folk tales. A folk tale is like all moral stories. So oral tradition can be basically, you can think it that since most of the Naga elders, they were not educated, they cannot read and write, so everything, all the folk songs, stories, folk tales, stories, everything was taught through verbal, not by written, but through the mouth only. That is by speaking, and the youngsters or the females, they learn by listening. That is by verbal. We say like mukpra koina. And wood carving. Wood carving means like maybe a certain kind of making of spoon, or maybe eating steel plates, like that. Some basic thing it was taught in the Morong. And especially, very importantly, weaving. Weaving means making of mekla or shawl. In the Morong, all the females were expected to learn this, and then they were expected to know how to make their own mekla or shawl. Unlike the boys, girls usually worked at home during the day and used the dormitory at night. Another important feature of the Morong in some tribes were the log drums. It was made out of the hollowed trunk of a tree with the carving usually of a mitun or human head at one end. Okay, not all the Morong, but in some of the Morong, they had a log drum. So what is it made of? So it is made of a trunk of a tree. All the branch are cut, and then the trunk remains, and then this trunk is hollowed out, means they carved the inside of the trunk, and as you can see in the picture, and then they make it into a log drum. And usually at the front of the log drum, they have a head of the mitun or a human head, which is carved out from the tree trunk. The drums was beaten with wooden dumbbells by men lined up on either side, and could be heard for miles. So to beat the drum, they have a certain kind of a stick, which is called wooden dumbbells. So wooden dumbbell means it's a kind of a stick used for beating the drum, which is thicker and bigger, unlike the drumstick, the modern drumstick that we have. Okay, and it was beaten with wooden dumbbells by men lined up on either side, and it could be heard for miles. So it was so loud that not only within the village, but it could be heard for miles, means from many kilometers away. Announcement of meeting, victory, the death of the villagers, warning of impending dangers, etc., were made from the morongs by the beating of the log drums. So the log drum has a different kind of a sound, or we can say like that, there was a different kind of sound meant for particular reason. Example, like if the elders of the village want to have a meeting, there was a certain sound of the drum which people understood it as a signal for having a meeting. If they have won in the battle, so there's a certain pattern, or there's a certain sound of the drum which makes all the villagers understand that Naga youth from their village has defeated the enemy and came back victorious. And then like we have the death of a villager. So example, if someone died in the village, so there's a certain kind of a beating that is given out so that people understand that someone in the village has died. Or lastly, the warning of impending dangers. So impending danger means something bad about to happen. So example, like if the village youth have seen some enemy approaching the village, so there's a certain kind of a beating to make all the villagers understand that the enemies are approaching the village. So it was like every beat has a certain sound where people could understand. Lastly, it is very unfortunate that with the coming of modern ways, the Morong system is no longer given the importance it deserves. And you know why, isn't it? Because of opening of schools in the village, people now prefer to go to school and to be taught in the modern way instead of what they were taught in the olden days.